Hi there, welcome to your English class. Today we are going to start with unit number 12. Our objectives are to talk about the past, and at the end of the session you will be able to make sentences using simple past tense. Let's start. First of all, I would like to share with you my experience in Trujillo. A few years ago, I traveled to Trujillo with my best friends. We wanted to go to many touristic places, but our money was not enough. Nevertheless, we had a great time there. Marcela is not keen on going to the beach, but Connie and I love it. Both of us spent lots of hours on the beach. Also, we ate some local food, such as ceviche and the famous arroz con pollo, which was delicious. Definitely, the best part of our trip was to go fishing on a caballito de totora. We had a great time in Trujillo. So, as you noticed, I'm telling you about my experience in Trujillo. And that trip finished. It's not happening anymore. That's ceviche. Those are my friends, Marcela and Connie. That's the beach, one chapel. And the last picture, I'm in front of the caballito de totora. So, check it out. If I'm talking about my last experience in Trujillo, I'm talking about the past. I'm talking about an event that already happened. It's not happening anymore. So I'm using simple past tense. Can you identify the verbs in simple past in that paragraph? I give you a minute. Look for the verbs in simple past. Let's check. The first one, traveled, yes. Wanted, was, had, spent, ate, was, and had. Those verbs are in simple past form. Why? Because I'm talking about an experience that already happened. So I'm going to use simple past tense to talk about complete actions and events in the past. When you are working with simple past tense, you will encounter irregular verbs and regular verbs. If you look on your book on page number 185, you will see these common irregular verbs. Go to your book, check that page, grammar reference section, and you can practice these irregular verbs. Read them, use them. It's going to be easier. So, let's start. Look at this. We have a sentence in simple present tense. My mother goes to Trujillo every week. I'm telling you, every week. It's a routine. Every week. My mother goes to Trujillo every week. Let's change that sentence into a simple past tense. We have my mother to Trujillo last month. I need to change the frequency, because if I'm talking about the past, I will use last month, yesterday, last year, 2 days ago, 2 years ago, in 2009, right? So first of all, I will change my frequency, last month. So I'm telling you about something about the past. My verb goes. What's the simple past? Went. Exactly. So it's going to be my mother went to Trujillo last month. I changed it. What about here? Look, we have I, the verb is see him in the park last night. Any idea? Yes, you're right. I saw him in the park last night. What about the second one? They, the verb is fly to Amsterdam in 2008. They flew. They flew to Amsterdam in 2008. Next, Lourdes, the verb is called me last week. Lourdes called me last week. We, the verb is eat, lomo saltado for lunch. We ate lomo saltado for lunch. As you can see, I'm using those time expressions, talking about the past, referring to the past. Last night, in 2008, last week, for lunch, or maybe at this time it's dinner time. At that time it was dinner time. So we are talking about the past. I saw him in the park last night. They flew to Amsterdam in 2008. Lourdes called me last week. We ate lomo saltado for lunch. What about here? Complete these sentences. Last year, my holiday in Trujillo. Spent. Last year, I spent my holiday in Trujillo. Number 2. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Number 3. I around by car with 2 friends and we lots of interesting places. I traveled around by car with 2 friends and we visited lots of interesting places. Number 4. Last week, we to a pub. We went. Last week, we went to a pub. One night, we even some traditional dances. Learned. One night, we even learned some traditional dances. Number 6. We were very lucky with the weather. Nice. Number 7. We saw some beautiful rainbows. Nice. So as you can see, I'm making sentences using simple past tense. And in order to talk about the past, I'm going to use my verbs in simple past tense. Simple as that. Last year, I spent. It was fantastic. I traveled around by car. Last week, we went. We learned. We were. We saw. I'm talking about the past. In order to make negative sentences, for example, we have here this sentence. I worked in New York last summer. Let's change that sentence into a negative sentence. We are going to add the auxiliary didn't before the verb. I didn't work in New York last summer. I'm going to add didn't or did not plus my verb. I will use it in its base form. I will not change. I didn't work in New York last summer. So, if you are working with the subject I, you, we, they, he, she, we always use didn't to make my sentence negative in simple past form. So, I didn't live in London. You didn't move to live. She didn't go to the movie. They didn't leave school 2 years ago. Doesn't matter which subject you are using, always you will use didn't to make negative sentences. So, you didn't live in London in 2000. He didn't live in London in 2000. They didn't live in London in 2000. I didn't live in London in 2000. You didn't move to Lima last month. She didn't move to Lima last month. They didn't move to Lima last month. You didn't go to the movies yesterday. She didn't go to the movies yesterday. We didn't go to the movies yesterday. I didn't leave school 2 years ago. It didn't leave school 2 years ago. They didn't leave school 2 years ago. So one more time, doesn't matter which subject, which pronoun you are using, you always will use didn't or did not to make negative sentences, all right? But if you are working with the verb be, as you know, the verb be, you will not use the auxiliary did or didn't in this case. With the verb be, it's going to be wasn't or were. So if I have a sentence like, I was in Rita's house for lunch. In order to make it negative, I will say, I wasn't in Rita's house for lunch. You see, I'm using only my verb be, wasn't or were. So you have it here. I wasn't born in 1966. He wasn't born in 1966. You weren't born in 1966. They weren't born in 1966. He wasn't a doctor. She wasn't a doctor. We weren't doctors. They weren't doctors. So I will use only my verb be into negative form in order to make negative sentences. Wasn't or weren't. Please remember that. So let's make these sentences in negative form. Last year, I not spent my holiday in Europe. Didn't spend. As you can see, I'm using the auxiliary didn't, and my verb in its base form doesn't change. Spend. Last year, I didn't spend my holiday in Europe. It, that's the verb be, negative. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't fantastic. Number 3. I didn't travel around by car with 2 friends and we didn't visit lots of interesting places. Do one more time. You are using didn't to make negative sentence. And my verb is, I'm using its base form. Doesn't change. Last week, we, you're right, didn't go to a pub. One night, we even didn't learn some traditional dances. We weren't very lucky with the weather. Number 7, we didn't see some beautiful rainbows. Lovely, nice. So, what are you going to do at home? You have this activity on page 159, that's activity E. You need to complete these sentences using the verbs in parentheses, and you need to change it, or you need to create sentences in simple past tense. So you have my family and I, the verb is move, to a new city last year. I know you know it. So let's complete this activity, and we are going to check it in class. All right? So only those 5 sentences. Please look at the verbs that you have it on your book, and let's complete these sentences. All right? So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. That's it for today. See ya. Bye-bye. Welcome to your English class. Today we are going to start with